Hi, dudes. You probably thought I was going to say hi, guys, like I usually say, but I want to mix it up a bit today. I look a little bit washed out here. I think it's bad lighting. Who knows? Anyway, guys, real quick video. Quick update first. I've was just over at my Patreon page, and in the last month, I've posted three short stories there I wrote, and they seem to be getting a lot of interest. A lot of people are reading them, which makes me really happy. So if you haven't checked those out yet, go and read those. They're open. They're free. Three little short stories, and I'm thinking that they're all they're all set either directly or very vaguely in my hometown here. It's not my hometown; it's my town. And sorry, uh, and I think once there's a sufficient number of, and they're very short, um, like the last one I wrote was 2,000 words. They're very short. Maybe when I get enough, like say 20 of those or whatever, I'll put them together in a book and I'll call them something like stories from my town or something like that. Um, anyway, so check those out. Very quick video, and it's kind of funny, and it's important for me to do this, I guess, because as you know, I'm very, I've got a PhD. I'm very well educated, and blah blah blah. And I guess like I sometimes presume that the readers have the background information that of the books and the eras and the different things that I'm presenting on, and and so if you took my advice to read a book, like a good book, you'd be like, I can't make heads or tails out of this, and that's important. And it's there's nothing to be ashamed of. Like when I started reading Russian literature, it's like you got to get used to all the basic ideas, and you come to appreciate it and you like it more and more and more. Anyway, I had a very frustrating experience this week. I was happy. I don't know which day it was. Maybe Monday. I went to my local public library and they sell books in the basement, and I was pretty pleased that I was able to find one of Nabokov's books, and I just gave them a small donation. It's like pay whatever you want to pay. It's not coming up very well there, is it? So this is Nabokov. It's a really pretty cover and everything. Pale Fire is the name of the book, and I had it on my radar. I've read a few of Nabokov's novels. Gosh, I can't remember their names. Obviously, Lolita, which is a masterpiece. The Gift. Did I read The Gift? And a couple others. Um, and I really like his writing, but this was a disaster. This was a complete and total utter disaster. It started so well. What was interesting about this book was that it begins with a poem. Well, it doesn't begin with a poem. It begins with a foreword by the writer, by the author, and which is a part of the novel. It's a part of the story. It's not a classic introduction or whatever from a translator or something. And then it goes into a poem. It's a long poem, which is it's 1,000 lines long, or 999, and runs in this book from page 27 to page 60. It's very beautiful. It's a beautiful poem. It's just lovely. And you know what? Buying the book just to get a chance to read that poem was worth it. The rest of the book is very frustrating. The rest of the book is presented as a scholarly commentary on the poem, okay? And it's meant to tell a story, okay? So it starts off pretty good. It talks about um, the the poet, and he was I guess a literature professor at a university, and the guy who's writing this is his next door neighbor who's also a professor, and blah blah blah. And then then eventually it starts heading off in this fantastical world that might remind you of, I don't know. The thing that comes to my mind is like fairy tales that you'd find, for instance, in C.S. Lewis or something like the Chronicles of Narnia. And it was very unexpected, and it's not my cup of tea, and it was very frustrating. I got very angry reading this book, and yet I read through most of it. I skipped through a lot of stuff. I just couldn't stand it anymore. So I skipped over. Now, I knew there was something up with this book, and that if I understood what was going on here, then it would make me less angry. But I decided to not do any research on this book until after I was finished reading it. And so today, I read a couple academic articles on this book. There's an online Nabokov review. It's a journal, and you can access it online. And one of the um, one of the articles you can access on that review is about the composition of Pale Fire. So, I mean, some people call this a masterpiece. I call it very frustrating. It's kind of like reading this is like trying to solve a mystery, and not a fun mystery, but a complicated mystery, as if you're trying to figure out the truth underlying all these stupid stories about a king and a whatever. It was not what I expected, and it was not what I wanted. You need to read this book several times to make sense out of it. And even still, as I judged from different critics about this book, even still, there's no consensus about what the book means. So imagine putting all that work into it, like reading it, say, 3 times, and then in the end, you have an opinion about what the book's about, but it's not necessarily what the book's about. So nonsense. Like, I'm not going to read this book. I'd rather put more time into learning a language or something, right? So, but don't discount Nabokov. Nabokov is a very good writer, and the poem in this is beautiful, as I said, and is worth the money for the book. But the rest of it, eh. So I'm giving this a below average review. I'm giving this a 4. Okay, I don't think I've given a 4 yet on this channel, and it's a 4 out of 10, and of classics. And don't read this book. Don't buy this book unless you are a glutton for punishment and you like the sound of fingers scraping on chalkboards. You know what's even worse than that is styrofoam. Oh, gives me the willies. Okay, now on the theme of frustration and confusion and inclarity in storytelling, I've been making my way through Kafka's short stories. This is a wonderful edition. I like the weight of it and the feel of it and so on. I'm not reading this in order. I'm just picking through it and finding the stories I want to read and so on. And they are Kafka. Kafka only writes in one way. If you don't like Metamorphosis, you won't like any of his books. You won't like his short stories. You won't like The Castle, America, or The Trial. You won't like anything of his. But these, if you do like Kafka, if you do like his style, these stories are really really interesting. And you know, in light of the frustration of trying to read Pale Fire, and then you get to one of Nabokov, you get to Nabokov, sorry, you get to Kafka. Kafka is not a clear writer either, and some of his stuff is very confusing. Like for instance, one of the stories is called oh, what's it called? It's called The Village of no, not that one. But a doctor, the country doctor or something. And you know what, the the country doctor, it's kind of like just like a dream somebody had. Like, try to describe one a weird dream you had. Well, that's the story, a country doctor or whatever it's called. But some of these stories are just amazing. And one of the ones that I liked so much so far was okay, the story that I mentioned was called A Country Doctor. One I really liked was about, gosh, what's it called? Oh yeah, a report to an academy, and it's fascinating. It's the story about this ape becoming a man. So, in a sense, the opposite of metamorphosis, where a man becomes a bug, this is an ape becomes a man, and it's truly fascinating. And I was thinking about, wouldn't it be cool to compare, for instance, um, that short story to, say, the first book of Augustine's Confessions, where Augustine talks about learning, where he learned how to read and learn, he describes childhood and infancy and so on, learning how to read and learning ideas and all that stuff, and comparing it with Kafka's presentation of how an ape becomes a man, right? He doesn't physically become a man, but he learns how to speak and how to act like a man and so on. It's fascinating. And there's a lot of other interesting stories in here. And it's not, again, if you're looking for just like a simple story of, a day in the life of whatever, or, somebody's falls in love or something, it's not Kafka. Um, so if you want straight storytelling, my week was very frustrating for that. Okay. And I'm making my way through Max Brode's biography of Kafka. And again, this is basically the book for understanding Kafka, because Max Brod was a close friend of Kafka's. So it's the biography to read, and it's very enjoyable. It's very slow, but it's very enjoyable. Brings Kafka up close in a very intimate way. So that's all I'm going to talk about for now. Um, Hope you guys are having a great day, great night. It's actually 12:30 here a.m. now. Um, Visit the Patreon page for the short stories. Check out my book on Amazon. Go Out From Us. Look at it up there. I always forget how this works. This reflection. Go Out From Us. My wife doesn't like me having these pictures up here, but hey, this is my studio. Okay, thanks so much, guys, for your support. Blah, blah, blah. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Facebook. Like and support. Thanks so much, guys. See you later.